championship leader on the number 11 Ducati, looking to stop the reigning champion, top-ranked Razgat Lioglu's winning streak from Portimao. Taking you through this morning's FP3 is Liam Hodgins and Stephen English. And Steve, with the cold conditions this morning, there might be not too much to learn with the temperatures, but it'll be heating up a little bit later on, so it could be all to play for, but not too sure.
Yeah, it's a cold morning here in northern Netherlands, and one of the big problems for the riders is the fact that this morning there was a heavy dew out on the ground as well, and just coming to the circuit, it is going to be a factor for everyone. 8 degrees air temperature, 11 degrees track temperature. This is about surviving the 20 minutes and making sure that if you've made a change to your bike, you're able to understand that. The big thing is, in 2 hours' time, we've got the Super Pole session. That's when your weekend really counts. And for all the teams and riders, they know that just getting to the Super Pole session with everything on skate is the most important thing in a warm-up whenever track temperatures are this low.
Yeah, and the most important thing is they don't have a spare bike ready to go in World Superbike. So if you do trash the bike, it gives the mechanics a lot of work ahead of Super Pole.
Yeah, we have a one-bike rule. You can see into pit boxes here, only a single bike for each entry. And the reason for that is that we have a rolling bike in the back of the garage. You can change to that if you have a problem, but you're then left with it for the rest of the weekend. So teams try and make sure that if they have to make a change, it's for a race, so that they're able to then still compete. So teams have a little bit of strategy with the one bike rule.
Here we are, your championship leader, the number 11 on 111 points, coming into round number 3 here at the TT Circuit Assen. A wave to the camera for Nicola Buliga, and looking cool, calm and collected on a very chilly morning here at Assen, trying to stop Top Rack's run from Portimao, but 3 wins back in Phillip Island, 3 second places. He's building himself up perfectly to be the favourite for the championship.
Yeah, I had a really fun interview with Nico and with Top Rack. We can see in Top Rack's garage now as well on Thursday, and both of them were full of respect for each other. It was really interesting to see the dynamics between them, because Top Rack he's an unusual cat. He's a guy that he wants to big up his rivals as much as anything else. He's not trying to stand on anyone. He knows when we get out on track, I'm going to treat you like I have to treat you. But off the track, he was really respectful of Buliga and the challenge that he's facing right now. And it's the same within the BMW pit box. I was speaking to Phil Marin after the last round in Portimao, and he was full of praise for Buliga and the lessons that he's learned over the last couple of years. He's been able to learn them from Top Rack. He's been able to look at Bautista on the other side of the pit box. He's been able to look at the rest of the field, and he seems to make those steps every day, and that is impressive to see.
There seems to be a friendly rivalry going on between them. However, as the season goes on, it might heat up and boil over ever so slightly. Here's Axel Bassani on the Bimota bike, 9th in the championship. However, he had a very good Friday yesterday. Well, towards the end of the session, he did put a new tyre in and go to 2nd on the timesheets, but maybe a bit of a confidence boost for the Italian that he needs.
Yeah, he said that it was really important just to have that good feeling with the bike. It wasn't a perfect day, but a good result. And for Bimota, it comes down to the Super Pole session for Bassani, but he's always a good result here. A lot of top 10s on the Ducati, a top 10 last year in race 1 here.
It does indeed, and we're looking at Andrea Locatelli on the Yamaha. Over the other side of the garage, we still have Jason O'Halloran in for Jonathan Ray. There is an ex-Superbike racer, 14-time World Superbike race winner, Eugene Laverty, the rider coach out there, just doing a bit of spotting for Locatelli and Jason O'Halloran.
Yeah, when it's cold like this, Eugene's questioning his life decisions to be out there.
Well, he is an Irishman like yourself, so I think he's used to the weather.
I've got a bit more weight on me to keep me warm and wet like this.
Yeah, he's not got too much on that body there. So here is Michael van der Mark, somebody that won't quite mind these conditions this morning, cold temperatures. The local hero here at Assen, and he's the reason that most of the crowd have turned up. They're still coming in. A big wave to the camera, and they'll be supporting Michael van der Mark as the pit lane now opens for FP3.
Bumped into Mikey very quickly in the hotel restaurant last night as well. He was there with all of his family and extended family. The Dutch round is obviously so important for him. Every round is created equal, but this round brings pressure for van der Mark. You've got all the fans that come out that were able to see a Dutch winner last year with Glenn Van Stralen in the Super Sport class. There's expectation on what Mikey can do this weekend. It will come down to the Super Pole session. If he can qualify on the second row of the grid, he can finish on the podium this weekend, and that would be a really good result for him. But for van der Mark, he knows that this is a weekend where he needs to perform.
He does indeed. It was quite interesting yesterday speaking to BMW during FP2. Towards the end of the session, he put a brand new SCX in to move himself up the timing order. However, Top Rack Razgat Lioglu put his new tyre in towards the middle of the session and continued on with that. So at the end, he didn't go back out in a brand new set of tyres.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're trying to strategize how best to use your allocation over the course of a weekend, and certainly for a lot of teams you use 3 tyres over the course of a Friday, and then you've got your 2 tyres in the Super Pole session, and you've got your race tyres. Your allocation gets burned up pretty quickly, and it's one of the interesting things to see how teams manage that, and also to see how teams put the emphasis on the person that knows best. And sometimes that's the crew chief. Sometimes the crew chief needs to have the faith in the tyre guy to know what they're doing as well. And it's an interesting dynamic within BMW, because Phil Marin is obviously the crew chief for Toprak Razgadioglu and the man in charge of how the pit box works. Toprak's in charge when he's on the bike, and then for Phil Marin, he's the guy that talks to the mechanics, the electronics engineers, the tyre technicians, suspension guys. All these kind of jobs are brought together by the crew chief. He made it very clear to BMW for last season, whenever Toprak signed, when Phil signed, that they wanted to take their tyre guy with them. And for a lot of teams, the tyre guy is the guy that drives the truck. For BMW, Andre is a really integral part of what they do over a race weekend and how you're able to build your strategies into the weekend. So it is a very important role to be able to understand that they're not just black and round. You've got how many heat cycles you're putting through the tyre, when are you putting them on the rim, how long are they sitting there in the back of the garage. And that's why when you go down to the Pirelli area at the end of a session, you'll see the tyre guys come in and they'll have maybe 1, maybe 2 rims. They'll make their changes and then they'll get ready for the races as well. What's also interesting is some of the smart ones have found a few little grey areas in the regulations for what they can do as well, and there's a few tricks of the trade for what you're able to do.
Yeah, trying to get information out of Pirelli is trying to get a Scotsman to put his hand in his pocket. We're just watching Sam Lowes there on the Mark VDS Ducati. Sam Lowes, good performance here last year, 6th and a 7th in the Super Pole race and race 2. A race winner here around the TT Circuit Assen back in 2013, his championship winning season. It was his first race win of the season back then in 2013 in World Super Sport. As we just watched Andre Iannone have a bit of a moment going into turn number 10 and runs off track. A bit dusty out there. We can see just the cement dust on the tyres as he rides around the exit of the curb. But we're now 16 minutes, or 16 and a half minutes almost, with this session to go. And the riders are just building themselves up ever so slightly here in this very cold morning. Xavi Vierge, we did see him, or not much of him, in FP1 yesterday. There's some technical problems that stopped the bike twice out there on circuit. However, at the end of the day, at the end of Friday, he was sitting just outside of the top 10. So Xavi Vierge actually was down in 22nd position, but managed to complete a good few laps, did Xavi Vierge yesterday, despite missing out on a lot of running in FP1. And we spoke to Jose Esquimes, and he was very stressed out, was Jose, in FP2 yesterday because of the lack of running for Xavi Vierge. But at the end of the day, he did manage to get 22 laps in on Friday, so it was a good session at the end in FP2.
Yeah, he was able to have a good afternoon, Xavi, and the one thing for Vierge is he's always able to get to a pretty similar level straight away. We saw that in Portimao as well, where his times from the test he got to straight away in FP1, but didn't really make progress from that. And that's one of the big things for Honda, where they need to have a step forward from their riders. They need to look at it and say, okay, well, we've been able to see for 3 or 4 years what's happened with Iker and what's happened with Xavi. Are they the guys to keep leading our Superbike project? And that's the big question mark that they have right now, because it is a seat that has a lot of potential, but we haven't really been able to see that. We've been able to see some good performances from both riders. Unfortunately, we've seen Iker on the sidelines for probably far too long over the course of his World Superbikes career. Xavi has been very solid, very dependable, but does he have that next step? He's a good number 2, but he's not the guy to lead the team. And they're the things that for Honda, they've been able to look across at BMW and be able to see that actually BMW where we were 18 months ago, you put Toprak on the bike and suddenly you make a massive step forward. So having the right rider makes a big difference here.
Yeah, they do indeed. We know that Honda is all about winning, and when you look at the MotoGP program, they are starting to find their feet a little bit, and they'll be maybe asking questions of where the World Superbike program might be going. It's almost 20 years ago that Honda last won the World Superbike Championship with James Tolson in 2007, so they'll be wanting to get back to winning ways. And for Xavi Vierge and Iker Lecuona, it really is crunch time for them.
just looking at the times as they start to come in as well, and Petrucci and Lecona faster than they went yesterday, and Sam Lowe's just goes third fastest on the timesheet right now, and still a little bit slower than he went yesterday. The same is the case for Andrea Locatelli in P2. So Petrucci's made a step forward from yesterday, but it's an FP3 session, so it's not about putting it all on the line right now.
We did see this back in Portimao with Petrucci. He just continued to get faster as the weekend went on, and on Saturday it was a very good day.
Just to say, into the Mark VDS pit box there, you could see Gorka, the crew chief for Sam Lowe's. That's been a big change for the team this year. Gorka's come in from HRC. He was working with Javi last year, and they've been able to work really well together. It's no coincidence that Sam's performances have made a big jump this season. He's got a good relationship with his crew chief. The team are nicely settled, and they've had a really strong start to the campaign.
They have done indeed, and he was showing brilliantly last year, 6th and 7th position, and he'll be hoping to continue on that form. He did have a difficult season last year after this round in Assen, but he'll be hoping to hit the ground running here this weekend, and so far, so good for Sam Lowe's. We just saw Axel Bassani there on screen a moment ago, and finished second yesterday, 1.2 seconds off this morning in his lap time yesterday, but these riders are just now starting to bed themselves in this morning.
Yeah, we also know that Bassani used an extra tyre yesterday, so he'll probably start this session with the used tyre, and then you're just getting yourself ready for the Super Pole sessions.
So across the line now, just under 13 minutes remaining. Some quick lap times coming in. Billiger goes 4th. Iannone just behind goes up to 5th. What can Alex Lowe's do? He's following his twin brother Sam, and Alex Lowe's goes to the top of the time. So these, we've seen this with the Marquez brothers in MotoGP, just giving themselves a target in front, and the other one slinging a hook in and following each other. So Sam and Alex helping each other out here.
It's interesting to see them over the course of a race weekend. The track walk on Thursday, you've got the Mark VDS team and the number 22 side of the Bermuda squad out walking the track together. It's a chance for them to be able to work together, and you see it in free practice where you might have a situation like this morning where they're out together. Some of that also comes down to, let's try and see where you can make some overtaking moves. Let's see where you can get a run on someone. You've got the Bermuda versus the Ducati, two very different bikes. They're able to generate similar lap speeds, but in very different ways. So you're able to find someone to work with, particularly if you're in a one-bike team like Sam is. It's really important to be able to do that, and they work quite well together for it.
Quite interesting. I was out on the track walk with some of the riders on Thursday, and it's quite interesting just listening to some conversations with the riders. They're saying here you can maybe take a little bit more curb than you could at the previous corner. So moving here, you see a lot of the riders cut the corner, and they're saying that even though it's a bit serrated, you can get a grip and a slingshot through there. Yeah,
it's always quite funny to see how riders and teams approach the track walk. For some, it's just a team bonding experience. You see BMW and they're just basically doing Instagram posts the entire way around. But there's always those moments of, this is where it's important, let's get down to business at this point of the lap, and then we'll get back to having a bit of fun. And then for other teams, it's all business all the way. But you need to understand what your rider needs. You need to see if they need someone that's laughing and joking to relax them into a weekend, or they need to get focused up. And that's the important thing, is to understand when's the moment for laughs and when's the moment to be serious. And that's where the good teams, the really good teams, the good crew chiefs, they understand their rider probably more than they understand their bike. And I think that's one of the things that's always quite interesting to see, that dynamic.
Yeah, it is indeed. And the team and rider combination is what makes the world go round here in World Superbikes. Sam and Alex continue to follow each other around, and Sam just putting in a couple of quick laps and maybe just gaining a little bit away from Alex Lowe's. So with half the session already gone, it is Billiger from Alex Lowe's and Daniel Petrucci, Locatelli, Sam Lowe's and Iannone running the top six. We're back with Michael van der Mark. He's just bailed out of this lap so far, and even though it's FP3, Michael van der Mark was on a good lap there and having to bail out of it with I think it was Domi Agater who wasn't touring in front of him, but just not quite going as fast as Mikey van der Mark and Ryan Vickers as well. So yeah, I don't know if Ryan Vickers was touring there. I think maybe he was just not quite going as fast as Mikey wanted him to go.
Yeah, for van der Mark, it's a free practice session as well. But the one thing about it is, he's a top tier rider. Vickers still getting himself up to speed in the class, and Ryan's just able to at least hold his hand up there. Maybe for Vickers, as he came through the loop at the start of the lap, he's that little bit wide or a little bit slower than van der Mark would have expected, and just catch them there. But it's a free practice session, nothing to worry about there. You can see down in the pit box there, Simon as well. He's a rider assistant down in BMW. He's keeping an eye on all the sector times there for van der Mark, just to be able to give the rider that information whenever he gets back off the bike. The crew chief has his job to do, where he has to then tell the team what change they're going to make, if it's a new tyre at the end of the session or anything else. But for the rider, he needs to be able to look at what they're doing in each individual sector. So they break down the lap sector by sector, and they'll say, you've done a 31.3 in the first sector, you're off the pace a little bit in the second sector, here we go, and you're able to see for your 5-6 lap run exactly where you're at.
Yeah, and that's really important to see for the rider performance, and we're seeing here, as you were talking about it right there, Steve, we've just had Nico Billiga's lap times, sector times come up in very... Well, we'll have to see a breakdown of all the laps to see how consistent he is through those sectors.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because you can see Top Rack just leaving the pits now, but for the riders, they break down obviously the lap, and they've got all of their laps on a stint, and they're able to see how their pace is, and then they break down the sectors to see where they're at for those as well. For Bulliga, we could see there he set the pace in each individual sector. He's gone a 1/10 of a second faster than he went yesterday. Alex Lowe's has gone faster than yesterday. Petrucci's gone faster than yesterday. Lecco Naviera and Baton Sofoglu's moved himself up into the top 10 as well. So they've all put in a new tyre, and they've been able to find a little bit of pace compared to yesterday, and they've been able to make their step. So it's interesting to see how teams will approach a session like this, because it is getting warmer. We've moved from 8 degrees to 10 degrees air temperature. We've stayed in and around that 11, 12, 13 degrees track temperature, but by the time we get to Superpole, it will be warmer, and that's whenever we'll really be able to get down to business.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We just saw Toprak going out to see what he can do. He had a couple of problems yesterday, not quite happy with the bike as he wanted to be. We just saw Jason O'Halloran filling in for Johnny Ray once again here this weekend on the number 20 Pata Yamaha, and it'll be good to see Johnny Ray back, hopefully in Cremona. He's making some progress with his injuries, but we don't want him to rush back too early, just in case. But Jason O'Halloran back in action this weekend at a track that he has had some experience in the British Superbike Championship.
Yeah, for Johnny, it's about trying to get yourself back to fitness. He's out in Catalonia at the moment, and speaking to him earlier in the week, he seems pretty relaxed about getting himself back. It seemed that coming to Portimao just on the Sunday to be able to give everyone an update was quite important for Johnny, and be able to be with the team, see them have a good result, and it's really helped motivate him as well, just to get back as quick as possible, because Locatelli's form so far this weekend shows that the progress last time out is real. And for Ray, it's about trying to use the next couple of weeks in Catalonia for the Easter holidays for his kids, to be able to build up his fitness. He's doing a lot of cycling again, and just trying to go out and get himself ready to be back in action for Cremona.
Well, there's no worse place in the world, or better place in the world, I should say, than maybe staying out in Barcelona with the heat and getting yourself into a good training program for the season. We're on board with Toprak, down in 17th at the moment. However, we believe he won't be there for very long. He's a 10th up at Sector 1, and if he stays on course, he could be able to best his fastest lap from the weekend so far.
Yeah, Toprak's obviously the centre of attention, but probably the most important Turkish man is Keenan this weekend.
Not Keenan, his son Zayn.
Well, we saw Zayn have a press conference yesterday,
yeah.
But just for Toprak as well, the future is the big question mark. It was interesting that already this morning there's interviews with Keenan Sofoglu on Speedweek.com from Ivo Schutzbeck about the future for Toprak. And one of the rumours that we've obviously heard is the Honda MotoGP move for Toprak. In the past, the big rumour was about Pramac Yamaha, and the change at the top with Lynn Jarvis moved out, Paolo Pervisio moved in to lead the operations for the MotoGP side of things. And that's a relationship that Keenan's had over many years with Paolo. That looks more and more concrete about where Toprak could actually end up being, and that was the rumour 4 or 5 months ago. It's coming back now again, so we'll wait and see what the future holds for Toprak. But what was interesting is Keenan said that he's had meetings here in Assen with the important people about MotoGP. Well, there's some important people from Yamaha here. There isn't that many from HRC, so
yeah.
It's interesting to see how things are playing out for Toprak. But he definitely wants that move for BMW then, and then have to offer him the world to keep him here as well. So it's not a bad time to be Toprak's manager, earning that 10-15% cut that Keenan's going to get.
No, not at all. And we did speak to Jose Escobar yesterday, and we did ask him about if Toprak potentially could be moving over to Honda for next year with a potential jump to MotoGP in 27. And well, he didn't exactly put cold water all over the situation, did Jose? We'll just leave it at that. But it's certainly interesting times, and it's always a rumour mill with Toprak that never seems to go away.
Yeah, it's a strange one because it's very early in the Superbike season to be talking about contracts and next season, but it's not in the MotoGP cycle. And there's only a couple of seats available in MotoGP. Jack Miller's seat and Luca Marini's seat are two of the prime ones that the contracts are either up this year or 1 year contracts. So that's where the rumours come from. but because it's MotoGP, it has to start early, and that impacts us here. Toprak is the domino that everything else falls into place from him in this paddock. He's the number one. He's the guy that everyone wants to have, and it means that he dictates terms. So for other riders, people like Nicola Bulaga, his manager is trying to get his contract sorted because Ducati obviously want to keep him for next year. A little bit of a different situation to a normal superbike cycle right now. But Razgatlioglu is the man in demand, and you can see here for Toprak, he's been able to come through fourth fastest. Locatelli went fastest, but look at Bahattin Safoglu. He's behind his training partner as well, and good effort there from Bahattin to do that. We see it with Toprak a lot, where he's trying to help Bahattin. He's got a lot of respect for what Bahattin can do, and when you speak to Toprak about Safoglu, he talks about a rider that probably doesn't have the ultimate talent level. You know, he's a very good rider, but he's not super talented. But Toprak says there's nobody that works harder than him. And it's really interesting to see the contrast between what we could look at some of the other Turkish riders. You've got Can Onchu, super talent in the super sport class, but maybe there was a bit of a work ethic issue at one stage. At one point, Keenan was putting them out to work on a bread bakery in the middle of his hometown, just to give him the experience of what life can be like if you're not a motorcycle racer. And it really helped motivate Chan. The injuries, the recovery, all those things have helped bring Chan to where he is now. Bahattin's been very different. He's gone 300s to super sport to superbike, and it's been graft. And it's one thing that everyone respects in the paddock is someone that can work hard and put in the hard yards. Bahattin does that, and he's doing a decent job on the superbike this season.
I overheard a conversation in the media centre with Chan Onchu with one of our colleagues, and he was saying that this Super Pole and of course the win last time in Portimao just gave him that belief again that he can do it. He was so worried after the injury a couple of years ago, but Chan Onchu back to what the form that we expected from the youngest ever Grand Prix winner over in the MotoGP paddock. Now, a rider that we haven't seen too much from so far in 25 is the 21 Moto2 world champion Remy Gardner. His sole podium in World Superbikes came here a year ago, third place, and just behind Bautista and Toprak. But he crosses the line now, 14th for the time being, but he's on course to go top 5, and he has done there. So good stint there from Remy Gardner on the 87 Yamaha, and it'll be good to see Remy find some form as we see Andrea Dossley in the garage there. Just yeah, a bit of a puckered lip, but he knows that there's probably still a bit more work to do. But good start to the Saturday morning here for Remy Gardner and his teammate Domi Aguilar. Just a little bit further down the order is Domi Aguilar, and Domi Aguilar will be, hopefully for him, moving up the timesheets as he just goes into 12th position as Axel Bassani goes into 6th. Another rider that has been showing strongly so far this weekend is Taryn McKenzie on the MIE Honda. He was 15th in FP1 yesterday. I asked the team if it was a new tyre to put in at the end, and they said yes, but they're still feeling quite confident, and the lessons they've learned in Portimao, which seems to be maybe going in a different direction from the factory team, is helping Taz out quite well over in the MIE Honda squad. Just over 1 minute to go of the Saturday morning FP3 session. Cold conditions, but it is heating up ever so slightly, and Toprak is hoping to, well, go to the top of the timesheets. A little bit deep into the Gert Timmer chicane. It comes across the line. Will it be an improvement? No, he lost a bit of time, so that's a mistake into the final chicane. Just put paid to Toprak.
Yeah, Toprak about 5 or 6 laps into his stint there, 0.2 of a second off his fastest time there after that little bit of a moment. But for Razgatlioglu, we saw this yesterday as well. Very strong for the first 4 or 5 laps in a stint, and then a little bit of a drop off. So that's where you'd be hoping for a bit of an improvement from Razgatlioglu today. Track conditions 12, 13 degrees now. It is getting hotter, but not hot enough really to get the most out of the Pirelli tyres. So for all these riders, you're just trying to give yourself that chance for Super Pole, where it should be 5 or 6 degrees more, and then you're in the operating window for the Pirelli tyres to be really good. We should smash the lap record in the Super Pole session, because it stood from 2022. We should be into the 1 minute 32s pretty comfortably, and a lot of riders are going to feel that they've got a good chance to qualify well. The reason for that is right now we've got Locatelli, Bulaga, Petrucci, Razgatlioglu, Remy Gardner up there. So we've got 2 Ducatis, 2 Yamahas, a BMW, a Bimota in 6th place as well for Axel Bassani, and then we've got a few other Ducatis up there pretty quick. So we've got a lot of different bikes that are proving pretty competitive out there. Toprak strong in the first sector. This man, Nico Bulaga, is strong everywhere. So for Bulaga, he'll think again, another Super Pole session, let's go out and do it. But right now in this session, he's trying just to find something against Andrea Locatelli at the end of this lap. But for Bulega, when you look at Bulega in the Super Pole session, look at his body language, look at how slow he is on the bike. He doesn't look like he's moving really aggressively on it. He's very fluid, very Jorge Lorenzo-like in his prime. And one of the things for Bulega is, if it looks like he's on an in-lap, that's whenever he's fast.
Yeah.
And we've seen it time and again that Super Pole is his big strength. He's not an all-action superhero, but he's super fast.
He is indeed, and he's coming around to complete his final lap of the session. And one of the circuits he's not had a victory yet is Assen, and 11th and an 8th. So he wasn't showing his potential here a year ago, but he did finish second in the Super Pole race. But based on what we've seen so far this weekend, he is the rider to beat. And second position in FP3, he won't be too bothered by that. Only 7 thousandths of a second off his fellow countryman Andrea Locatelli. So a good morning's work for Nicolo Bulega ahead of Super Pole later on today. And also great session there from Andrea Locatelli, really continuing on that form he found in Portimao.
Yeah, exactly, and really important for Yamaha to do that. You spoke to Nico Canepa, the project leader for Yamaha here in World Superbikes for this season. Canepa, former World Superbike rider, MotoGP rider, very experienced test rider and endurance rider. He understands what a rider needs, and it's really interesting whenever you hear him talk about the upgrades that Yamaha have made to the bike. It's a slightly more flexible frame. They've changed the stiffness a little bit, but it's improved the feeling on the corner entry. And from that point onwards, Locatelli now has that little bit extra that's giving him a pretty big performance benefit in terms of what he can feel from the bike and what he can do with it. Good to see him top the times here in this session. He knows that he needs to qualify in the front 2 rows of the grid. If he does that, he's going to be in contention this weekend for top 5s, maybe a podium. If he qualifies on the 3rd row of the grid, and it could only be 1, 2, 3 places different in the Super Pole session, but it suddenly puts his weekend on a knife edge to get himself into those league battles. It really is tight in World Superbikes. And the biggest problem is for all these riders, they also know in the Super Pole race, 10-lap race, you've got to finish in the top 9 positions to give yourself a good grid position for race 2. So the pressure on the riders all the way through the weekend is so high, but the pressure really is on in an hour and a half's time whenever we get ready for the Super Pole session. Yeah,
it will be indeed, and as you quite rightly said, Locatelli will be looking to at least be on the front 2 rows of the grid and make that great start he did back in Portimao. So after the sessions are done, the free practice is all down to business for Super Pole coming up later on, but it's Andrea Locatelli from Bulega and an all-Italian affair with Danilo Petrucci running at the top 3 ahead of Razgatlioglu. Maybe a little bit of work to do for the reigning champion, but Remy Gardner showing strong in 5th place. Bassani, Bautista, Montella next up with Iannone, and then the Lowe's twins, they all seem stuck together in the free practice sessions. They're in 10th and 11th with Swoglu. Good session for him, and then further down you've got Lacorda, McKenzie, Verhey, Redding, and then Vandermark at the back of the pack. So the combined practice times, Andrea Locatelli through the course of the weekend so far, finding 1.6 seconds almost from FP1 to FP3, so great times there, and great improvement from the Yamaha rider. And of course, now with free practice all done, we're down to the business end of the weekend, where Super Pole, the all-important session, to put you right for the grid positions in race 1, and the Super Pole race tomorrow will be coming up. The lap summary for Andrea Locatelli, and 34s across the board before he hits run 2, and then he was dropping down to the 33s, but then a drop off of 0.4 of a second on his 3rd lap. But look at this from Nicolo Bulega, 33s from lap 2 all the way down to his 10th lap. So Nicolo Bulega, he has the pace, he looks like the rider to beat, while only Danilo Petrucci only had 2 lap times in the 33s, and his best lap came